This card right here started as a blank document. Before it was printed, before it was signed, it needed to start somewhere on my computer. And today what I want to show you is how to create that blank document to set up for all of your trading cards. By the end of this video, I hope to show you exactly what size you need to have, what bleeds, and what sort of grids you might need for your file. And if you want to see other designs that I have made using this template, check out my Instagram profile, Bradley Jack Design. So this right here is my master file for my blank trading cards. I start with this anytime I'm making something, whether it's a sticker for a client or whether it's a sports card that I want to get printed off. This is what I start with every single time. And it's a pretty simple setup. We have a specific size. We've got some stuff on the left here on the layers panel. I can show you these. So we've got a border here. We've got a holographic border. That's just to mock up if I wanted a specific border around everything. But if we don't, we can have a full bleed on it. And you can see if I turn this border off of a bleed, I'm designing behind it because this is going to get cut off in the end. I then have two layers underneath that, and I usually put these in folders, and this is where I usually have working files. These are just two exported ping files. One of them is a layer that would print CMYK, and the other one is a white layer that would print in mockup, where the white layer would go to block the holographic. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail in a different video. But what you may notice is I have this top layer here set to multiply, and that's so we can see what it looks like if it was going to actually be printed, because CMYK prints somewhat transparent, so it would look like this. So what I would start off usually is this to be set to normal, and I can see what my design is, and then we can change it to multiply later on. And then the final thing we have down here is I have a couple different holographic textures, and these are textures that I've created. I have them in packs on my website, bradleyjackdesign.com. You can get packs on there. And I've got this one just set up with a cracked ice texture, and this one just a standard holographic texture. And this is just so I have an area to mock up what it would actually look like on a card. But I want to show you how you can make this file yourself and know how to have it set up correctly. And I might actually give you this file at the end. It might be linked in the description, so take a look down there. But what we're going to do is we're going to make a new file. Over here, we just got our standard new document. I'm going to change pixels to inches. And a standard card is 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. The resolution we want to keep the same at 300 because that's print resolution. And we can keep the color mode RGB for now. We can always flatten it and change it to CMYK later, which is something you're going to want to do because it'll actually show and represent how it's going to actually be printed. And the production company or whoever's printing it, they want it in CMYK. But we don't want to hit OK yet because we want to bleed on this. So the bleed we want to add to this is 1/8 of an inch around the side. So that's 1/4 of an inch. So I can add 0.25 to this. So I can make it 3.75 and 2.75. Personally, I like designing things at a higher resolution than I'm going to print. So I'm actually going to hit *2 for my width and *2 for my height and just double it. So it's 5.5 by 7.5. And then I'm going to hit OK. This is what we have. We have our blank document. Now I'm just going to steal these guys and paste them in here. This isn't a, necessary step. This is something I like to have on here to mock up how they're going to use. But what I want to add to this essentially, and I'm going to actually grab these two. So these are the two working files. So how I would have this set up is I would have a group. So I'm going to put this into a group and I'm going to name it main design. And this is where we start our designing. And then this one is going to be called white mask. And this white mask, I usually have this color overlay set to it. So if I actually turn this on, this is actually a red layer. And the opacity is set to 30. I'm going to set it to 100. I must have accidentally hit something. There we go. And I can turn this on. So you can see these are the normal layers. So I usually have main design and I usually have white mask. And we're going to have another video talking about this white mask. For now, I'm just going to have this main design turned on. I'm going to turn these off actually. So what we want to do is we want to set up our bleed and we want to set up our grid or our guides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up our bleed first. So I'm going to go down to the bottom. There's a little black and white cookie button is what I like to call it. I'm going to hit solid color. We're going to set this color to white and we're going to set it to multiply. So up here at the top, you can select the blending mode to be multiply. We're going to put that into a group and then we're going to give this group a stroke. We're going to give it a stroke on the inside. And you can see it's adding a stroke here. But we don't know what number we want it to be. But we want it to be 1/4 or 1/8 of an inch all the way around, because that is our bleed. And since our document setting is set to 300, we should be able to set this to 300 divided by 8, but our file size is double the size, so 300 divided by 4 is 75. And I'm going to change this to be an actual color. And I'm going to go like this and hit OK, and then hit OK. I'm actually going to put this into another group, so I'm going to hit Command G, and I'm going to name this bleed. So this is our bleed now. But we can set up some guides to showcase where this bleed is, and we can add some area for padding as well. Sometimes I like to set this blending mode to be multiply, because then we can see through it to make sure we're designing behind it. So if I turn the main design on, I'm going to set this to like 50% just so we can see through it. You can see I'm designing through and around this bleed because we want it to cut off to be clean. We don't want any white edges. So I'm going to set this to 100%. We're going to keep our bleed where it is. I'll hide this for now. And what I want to do next, and this is one of the more final steps, is I want to set up guides. And I set up guides like this on every single project I do, regardless if it's getting printed or being not digitally printed, posted on social media. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to View. I'm going to go to Guides. I'm going to hit New Guide Layout. So what this allows you to do is it allows you to set up columns. It allows you to set up rows. This comes in real handy if you're laying something out in sort of a table. I like to keep it just at 2 and 2. It gives me basically the middle horizontally and vertically. Strike that, reverse it. And then our margins down here, I want to set this to be 0.25 inches because that's our 1/4 of an inch, because this is double the size. So if I do that, you can see if I hit enter, it gives us guides exactly where our border is. So now I know where the edge of the paper is going to be regardless of where we print. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to add some more guides to this. So I'm going to hit New Guide Layout again. And there's a button down here that says Clear Existing Guides. I want to make sure that's unchecked, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 0.5 all the way around and hit enter. So it's giving me another 1/4 inch, which is more of an 1/8 of an inch when we print, and then guide, New Guide Layout, and then do the same here, another 1/4 inch. And what I would do here is I would save this file. So go on, save, and I would save it as master blank card file and save it somewhere. And this is what you can start using to create your card designs. I'm going to turn this main design file on, and I'm going to set my bleed to normal, except we need to set it to pass through, not normal. So this is this design inside this layout. Now, usually this would be a bunch of different layers. I would work in this file here, in this group, to create this. But we can see here, I'm following my guides. So if I zoom in here, you can see down here where it says Malachi Smith, it's above this bottom first sort of guide inside the card design itself. And the reason being is I want that to be my safe zone. If you send this off to a printer, they're going to have some sort of safe zone reference. So you want to make sure you're inside that safe zone. I then use it, so this second layer in here is where this sort of shadow starts, which is kind of nice. So it starts on both sides. It's very symmetrical, looks nice. And then up here you can see I have my ready for takeoff text just sort of going inside of this. Sort of tucked nicely. It's actually tucked nice and neat, almost equidistant here, and here, and the top. So I'm using these guides to make sure that everything has equal spacing around. So when I print this card off, it looks really nice. There's nothing that's almost touching the sides. You know, if I were to blow this up, you know, like if it printed like this, like down here where it says Malachi Smith date, and this is really close to the edge and looks weird, or if this is, you know, up at the top, it might get cut off. But you see, if I turn on and off the bleed, I have ample room everywhere to make sure that this file doesn't move it around too much. There we go. Make sure this file has the appropriate bleed and everything's going to look nice when we export it. Now, let's say you're done with this. Let's say you have these main design white mask files ready to go. And again, we'll talk about the white mask in a different video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the bleed off. I'm going to turn these background layers off and make sure our main design folder is set to normal. So this is our top CMYK layer. So I might rename this to Mali Front. And I can save that out. I can then turn this white mask on and make sure I turn the background off because we want this to be transparent. And I'll save this as Mali Back. And that's just so I don't accidentally save over these. So if I go and open up that file, open recent Mally front, we've got our file here. What we need to do is we need to export this however the printer wants. So there's a couple different printers I've used and worked with. Some of them have wanted PDF files where these are in the same file. So what I would do here is I would save this out. I would save it as a TIFF file. And you can hit save and you can hit OK, and it's saved as a TIFF file. I'm going to save this as a TIFF file too. Just doing it on a different screen. So these are both TIFF files. So these are files that I would drop into InDesign to make a PDF with. But what you can do as well on here, one thing we need to make sure we do is we need to convert this to CMYK. So I'm going to go to Image, Mode, CMYK. You can say you want to flatten? Yes. So it gets rid of everything else. This is the file in CMYK, flattened. This is good. We're going to do the same thing here. Image, Mode, CMYK, Merge, flattened. So this is good, and this is good. So for one printer I use, I would take these, put them in InDesign, set up a 2.5 by 3.5 inch document with the appropriate bleed, drop both of these in there, and just export it as a print-ready PDF and send that to them. Now, a different printer that I have used, they actually want this white layer to be in the same file as this and export a PDF from Photoshop. And they want this white layer to be a spot color, and I'll show you why. So I'll show you how to do that first. So what we can do is we can hold down the Option key and click on this layer. Click on the big icon for it. So it gives us a selection. I can go to Select, Save Selection. It's going to pop up like this. I'm going to name it Mask, and it's going to create a new channel. So over here in our Layers panel, we have Layers, Channels, and Paths. So I'm going to hide this and hit Command D. We actually don't need this anymore. I'm going to delete it, because in our channels, we have a mask layer now. So if I double click this, it pops up the mask options, and we want it to be a spot color. So I can click spot color. I'm going to make it green just so it shows up. It doesn't matter. The printer is going to make this white in the end, and hit OK. So if I turn these on, you can see this is what is going to print white, but it's the inverse of what we want. So all I have to do is hit Command I with this selected, and now I have on here the white mask layer on top of this CMYK layer. So then if I want to export this, we can hit save. I can save this out as just a Photoshop PDF. You can save it out whatever name you want. Just hit OK on high quality print, and then I will pull that up on my desktop. I'm going to open that in Adobe Acrobat and show you what that actually did. So when we exported that, this file is correct. It doesn't have like a bleed that shows lines with crop marks. That's fine. They'll figure that out on their end. But if we have tools selected, we go to all tools, make this a little bit larger. I can hit view more. Down at the bottom here, we have use print production, and I can hit output preview. And that's going to pull up this dialog box. So this dialog box is showing me the spot plates, which is what they want to print white, and the CMYK plates. So if I turn this off, it's showing me just where the white is going to print, which is represented by the black here. If I turn that on and turn this off, it's showing me the CMYK plate. So when they send this to the printer, what it can do is it can print the CMYK on top of this other layer mask that is already on there. So here's the real takeaway from this video I want you to have. I want you to make sure that if you're designing a trading card or sports card for fun, you're still using real life tactics, and it could be printed in the end if you wanted to. Make sure we're using the right resolution. Make sure we're using the right size. Make sure we know how to export the files if we were to send it to a printer. Make sure we have a bleed set up. Make sure that we have appropriate padding all around so the design looks good. Because in the end, the design might be for you, but if you're printing this off, we need to think about the kid who's going to open up the pack, the person who's going to put this in their personal PC, put it in a case and hide it away. We want to make sure that the card looks as best as possible, but is set up to be printed correctly as well.